Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition, whatever you want to call it, of From the Cheat Seats podcast. Just a wrestling fan looking at the wrestling business, giving a little bit of opinion, insight, and, um, you know, just talking wrestling. Let's see here. Blah, blah, blah. Today we're going to talk about SmackDown, a little bit of what also happened this weekend with New Japan, review a little TNA, AEW, as well on the topic of AEW, talk about the good and the bad lately. I'm going to try to talk up AEW instead of talk down AEW because, I believed in the premise of what it was when it first existed. Preview Monday Night Raw. And let's see here. Uh, kind of talk about an alibi that I think needs to be talked about in regards to the internet wrestling community and how people in said community are treated. Um, First off, let's go ahead and go just straight to SmackDown. Uh, SmackDown was a great show, and you know it was much better than Monday Night Raw. Not saying Raw was horrible. No, the Raw after Mania, it was a lot better than last year. And there was a definite difference in how it was booked between Triple H and Vince. But SmackDown was more the okay, now we're moving to WrestleMania. Now we're setting up our eventual feuds, regardless if Cody moves to SmackDown, stays on Raw. However, they're going to see the title picture in the long term. The triple threat matches were booked the right amount of key players. And why do I say the right amount of key players? Well, let's see here. Uh, One was LA Knight, Bobby Lashley, Santos Escobar. Santos Escobar, his resume speaks for itself in NXT. LA Knight. How can somebody talk negative about LA Knight? I mean, hell, his story nearly rivals another 40 plus year old man at the time in regards to being relevant and, you know, pushed the right way with the crowd behind him. And then Bobby Lashley, the Almighty. Um, Truly, I think, and this is no diss at Brock Lesnar, was the next big thing back then and has proved his worth as this branding of the Almighty and trying to lead a babyface stable. If they'll ever call it the Pride, whatever Power, whatever they're planning on calling it. Um, how well that match went. In the same for the main event, it was a triple threat to determine this week and the number one contendership between. We'll get to the two that are going to face each other, but that match alone, Kevin Owens, Rey Mysterio, AJ Styles, I'd pay for every day of the week, whether show up live or watch it on TV. PLE quality match. Um, the chemistry between the three, spot on. I mean, if I can harken back a little old school, with AJ, with with AJ, with Kevin, with Ray, I thought I was watching Angle versus Orton versus Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania 22 again. Just different players, with the exception of Ray. Let's see here. What else? I'll talk about the Bloodline today and what this happening at SmackDown kind of appears to be headed towards to. Braun Breaker, talk about Bailey and what she's got going on. Um, Loving Theory and Waller. that I'm going to talk about, as well as this establishment to eventually break away between Jade and Bianca. We're going to also talk about Jack Perry, Matt Riddle, and the debacle with Zack Sabre Jr., as well as Moxley winning the heavyweight championship. I'm going to talk good about TNA. I usually talk good about TNA. Even back during the Hogan and Bischoff era. And Eric Bischoff, I'm going to add that to the bias today, since we're talking positive about people, not negative. I'm not even going to crap on Tony Khan today. And honestly, I have no reason to crap on Tony Khan. Creative criticism, maybe, but not crap on it. And what I think TNA could do with NXT, WWE, other companies as a whole. Now that we're hearing from the CEO of WWE, board member of TKO, Nick Khan, say that they're open to collaborations with other companies. That this is not the Vince McMahon era of we're going to shut the door and just live in our own world. As you're hearing on television with Corey Graves, Michael Cole, talking about other companies' histories. It is making pro wrestling relevant. It is giving a wide berth. Understand that, yes, Jon Moxley, Dean Ambrose, blah, 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 etc., has competed in other companies under whatever moniker. So let's get straight to SmackDown. Okay, so show opened up with a Cody Rhodes promo. And with that promo, he highlights talking to The Rock for the 45 minutes that, Cody didn't need 45 minutes to get his point across. He even gave a nod to the awesome and amazing Brandy Rhodes, Eden Styles, whatever you want to call her. And kind of giving a tip of the cap to that moment between Jade Cargill and Brandy at AEW. The who was open night mic, or I'm probably paraphrasing it completely wrong. Who told you it was the open night mic, biatch? Did it fit? I'm not going to tell the Universal or the new WWE champion what he can and can't say in his promos, but it was a nice callback. Did it really affect anybody? No, but it's kind of reminding people that when The Rock is ready to come back and renew hostilities with Cody, whether Cody is still champion or not, there's still another chapter of this Cody versus the Bloodline story. While Cody's able to go have short and long-term feuds with other members of the roster. Kind of, I'm glad that he's able, and he's a draw. People are like, oh, well, Roman Reigns, Roman Reigns. Yes, Roman Reigns put the company on his back for 4 years, had amazing matches with Kevin Owens, Edge, Daniel Bryan, Braun Strowman. I mean, Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman can actually go if you give them time. Et cetera, in regards to who on the roster has faced Roman Reigns during his reign as Universal, and then whatever we're calling this, the undisputed WWE Championship. Are we getting a makeover of Cody's championship? Who knows? Let's see here. Then we went right straight into the first of the two triple threats, and it featured LA Knight, Bobby Lashley, Santos Escobar. What it feels like is that you're getting Legado del Fantasma away from the LWO and putting him in a feud with, and I kind of like the, faction versus faction when it maximizes TV time. It allows everybody to have a spot, even if it's not the shining light at the top of the SmackDown tree at that moment. Uh, LA Knight got over. I mean, wait a minute. I'm using vernacular here that I think is wrong. Got over, put over. LA Knight is over. Whether he wins, loses, or anything else, he's still relevant. And as I was saying, the man's 40 plus years old. He's having a run a la Diamond Dallas Page. And with LA Knight, him winning continues that push. Now, where he eventually ends up in a title picture, who knows? I mean, they may be waiting for the draft, the shuffle, maybe an Intercontinental title run, US title run. Who knows? I think they're gearing towards more of a Logan Paul, Randy Orton run, and as well on Raw, Sammy versus Gable versus Sheamus versus Gunther versus whoever they're going to put it, Sammy with, Ilya, who knows? Because we have the draft in about a week, a little over a week. And honestly, we're going to see how they shuffle Raw, SmackDown, NXT. I think LA Knight was the right person to go over. It's, like I said, establishes the Del Fantasma faction versus the Pride, or insert name here. And yeah, it was not boring. It filled the time it needed to, and like I said, the right end result, because they're not necessarily continuing a feud, but they're kind of putting a bow on where AJ and LA Knight were supposed to go. Then, I'm going to try to do this in order today. The Bloodline promo. Now, it was a nice little touch, and I'm not going to lie. It was a nice little touch to have it to where the Bloodline giveth, the WWE taketh when it comes to the Bloodline. Reason why I say this is very simple. Now that the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns, or is he still the Tribal Chief, is the Tribal Heir taking him? After WrestleMania, was there a determination that the Tribal Chief lost the Ulafala to somebody else, namely a final boss? And who knows? But for Heyman and Jimmy and Solo to walk in and think, oh, hey, we have the top dog locker room in the arena, and then sees Cody's placard and Kevin Owens go, yeah, you're not invited. Now, going on later in regards to the other triple threat I'm going to talk about, I can kind of see where Kevin Owens still kind of has his feet wet against whoever in the Bloodline. Anyhow, and Heyman said to them, we'll get this back. We'll get this spot back. Give it time. Who knew what we were going to get later on in that show with Solo? Now, it's been said, and this is mainly house shows. They don't really acknowledge house shows unless something dramatic happens, a title change, or, like a super show where something that doesn't usually happen out of the ordinary happens. But Solo, the line, there's consequences to wins and losses. And then going to town with the Simone Spike on his older brother, Jimmy. It was about damn time that they took Solo out of the Hitman and made him steal line for Bret Hitman Hart. And Solo's not exactly this, but I'm going to say it anyhow. To go from the Hitman to the excellence of execution, or getting to that point where Solo is going to be the main top of the card draw for the company. They're starting it, really actually starting it, not teasing it. They're starting it, and they're allowing him the room to go with The Rock, more than likely. And then after this turn on Jimmy, it was nice to see and as I said the other day on Twitter, the Fijian and Tongan branches of the bloodline family tree finally start to emerge from the trunk, which is, I guess, primarily Samoan, but it's all Pacific Islander, it's all Polynesian, it's all that part of the world, and that's a rich history in just professional wrestling. People forget you have other members of the roster who have Polynesian ties. Dakota Kai, I would say Bronson Reed, even. Two really amazing talents. I believe Dakota Kai is half Samoan. Might be wrong. But anyhow, watching Tama Tonga, and it was about damn time Tama Tonga. Now, what I have loved, Bullet Club reunion with AJ and Cody and Balor and the Good Brothers. Sure, harken back to the good old days. Kind of have like the Bullet Club Ultimate. But do I think he is right for the bloodline? Yeah. Because, like I said, you are showing that the tree has more branches than what we see usually on the surface. Tom is very talented. His New Japan resume speaks for itself. And it makes you think, are we going to see Tana Loa? Are we going to see Haikulo come to WWE? I think Haikulo is being recruited right now behind the scenes to potentially, once his contract ends with New Japan, come to WWE as well. Rumors of Jacob Fatu, one of the cousins of the Usos, potentially making his presence known on a WWE property here eventually. We'll see. But, Triple H said the other night after the second night of WrestleMania, the Bloodline story is just beginning. Yes, we've had 4 years of Roman and the Usos and Solo running WWE, but now we are seeing the depth. This inning, honestly, it may have been the 9th inning for one chapter of the story when it comes to the Bloodline at WrestleMania. But I think we're in the first inning of chapter 2 of how this Bloodline is going to be told. Whether it's going to be the Bloodline Civil War, Tribal War, whatever you want to name it. People need to be watching. It's going to bring eyes. It's going to be a nice touch if booked right. Let's see here. Let's go to Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker. Poor Cameron Grimes. And I love Cameron Grimes. I think he's talented. He can talk. He's goofy. He's serious. He was the right debut opponent. They didn't put somebody who was an enhancement talent local to get a $500, SmackDown or Raw rub. They put him in with Cameron Grimes, somebody who he's familiar with, that he can work with, and they can maximize each other's talent. It was very simple, to the point kind of match, just showing the physical powerhouse dominance of Braun Breaker. Now, going back to the Bloodline and tying this one in, as we noticed, Paul Heyman being a little bit more apprehensive after Solo beat Jimmy up and then taking Heyman's phone and smashing it. I can kind of see where Paul Heyman takes a step away for a couple months, goes with somebody else, whether that is a healed CM Punk or Braun Breaker. Why Braun Breaker? Well, Braun can talk, but Braun is the next big thing in the company down the road. He is not his uncle. He is not his father. Yes, he's as talented as both of them. And his moveset makes people go, what? Um, but in the same, Braun is his own person. I'm going to tell you this right now. In 10 years, if that child does not have a couple title reigns, WWE will have done that man wrong. And with Triple H and Shawn Michaels and William Regal, WWE has a perfect opportunity to mature all these talents, bring out their strength, as talents have said. That's what they're focusing on now. Yes, they're going to still show their weaknesses, but they're enhancing their strengths, their gains, the way that, they appear on TV is far better than making them some goofy gimmick comedy segment on a Monday Night Raw. I mean, that's our truth. That's our truth spot. That man is a jack of all trades. Let him be the jokester between the brands. Same thing with Joe Gacy. Yeah, Joe Gacy down there in NXT. And we'll talk about him later. Let's see here. Bayley setting up at least her next two feuds, babyface and heel, in regards to Naomi and Tiffany Stratton. Now, what Bayley Naomi run? Sure. They work well together. They make you want to watch their matches. It's not very hard to tune into TV and be entertained by those women. But Tiffany Stratton, you go back to Australia to Elimination Chamber in February, got the loudest pop during the Elimination Chamber match. Whether she's a heel, which she was great at, or she eventually takes a babyface turn, WWE has its next Charlotte. The days when Charlotte decides, hey, I want to, take some time off, with Andrade and go have a family, Tiffany Stratton will be there. Elvira Valkyria will be there. Roxanne Perez will be there. Xenia Sterling, the young lady from the Next Gen documentary on the Roku channel. I think she'll do well, as well as her corresponding contract winners from the female end of things. NXT has a great system of building their people up. Robbie Brookside, Matt Bloom, Sarah Del Rey, excuse me. Norman Smiley, big Norman Smiley fan. Always have been a Norman Smiley fan. The man's ability to chain wrestle. I think I saw a video not long ago of him chain wrestling one of their talent. And he didn't embarrass the talent, but he showed it as a probably in his late 50s, early 60s-year-old man. He can still go. He can still teach these young men and women something new. The promo with Theory and Waller, I get where they're going with it. They're going to give him a nice little tag team title run before they break them up and let them go at each other and establish Theory as the next John Cena, maybe. I mean, nobody needs to be John Cena. Austin Theory needs to be Austin Theory, and he's good whether he is playing some absent-minded character as a part of the way in NXT, whether he is playing the next big thing or the next chosen one under Redacted. Sorry, Vince. Or he, let's see here. He's paired up in a tag team with Grayson Waller. And Grayson Waller alone is money. I mean, you can make him, people sympathize with him, hate him, whatever you want to do. Grayson Waller is money. Cha-ching. I kind of like, that they're taking jabs at other places, but also the you have two main eventers right there, long term. Let's see here, Jade and Bianca. That's another group that I know they're gonna maybe give a title run to against and taking the titles off the Kabuki Warriors and kind of maybe separating Damage Control a little bit to let them all four stand out on their own. Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. I think they're the unsung MVPs of the women's tag team division. You can put them with anybody, and whether they put somebody over, they get put over themselves. Those two women, Chelsea makes TV worth watching just by herself. And why do I say that? Well, she is a jack of all trades, both as a babyface and a heel. She's like her husband. Can play both. They can play both real well. And if WWE or somebody ever hears this, hire back Mark Cardona. Let him finish his story. Let him become a Grand Slam champion. That's all he's missing. But I digress. Let's see here. And then the main event match. Kevin Owens versus Rey Mysterio versus AJ Styles. Now, early in the podcast, I said that it reminded me of Rey's triple threat against Kurt Angle and Randy Orton at WrestleMania 22, which easily stole the show that night and cemented Rey Mysterio as what he is now, a first ballot active wrestling Hall of Famer. And how many talents were put in the Hall of Fame actively? I know Rey. I know Rick. I think there's one or two others. Billy Gunn. Billy Gunn's still wrestling over in AEW. So, and he's allowed to use his Billy Gunn name. Which is nice because Monty Sop or Kip Sop or whatever they called him, he started as a smoking gun. He should be able to retire as a gun, whether as Billy, Daddy Ass, whatever. But he's still an active wrestler and a WWE Hall of Famer that is still active in the business while getting that ring. And I mean, Paul Heyman's not an in-ring performer, but Paul Heyman. There are very few that WWE have put in that still had an active career. Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, Rey Mysterio. I think Kevin Owens, due to that segment where he's entering the locker room with Cody Rhodes, eventually he's gonna run across Solo or Tama or whoever, and they're gonna build to something. AJ, we already know, is likely the heir apparent to the first number one contendership on SmackDown. Which I would love to see LA Knight be in that role and, continue to get championship opportunities. Even if you're not going to get, it's still the fact that it's Cody versus AJ. It's Cody versus LA Knight versus established, proven talent that can go with Cody. And Rey Mysterio. Well, I mean, LWO has got a few different hooks in different directions. We're going to figure out who beat up Dragon Lee before WrestleMania. We're going to see where Andrade lies in the scheme of things. Is he a member of the LWO? They're going to show up on Raw tonight to back up Andrade versus Judgment Day and Dom Mysterio. We're going to see. The finish of the match was amazing. The Styles Clash splash and rollover pin was a hell of a chain of events. It was great. Like I said, would pay for that match 7 days a week if I could watch that over and over again, which it should only be one time, but, uh, yeah. Let's see here, what else? We'll get into the Raw review or Raw preview here shortly. I even have it up on the computer, the rundown of what we're expected for tonight. Let's talk a little bit about New Japan Windy City Riot. Um, from what I'm hearing, it's a good show. I didn't have a chance to watch it. I'm sure I'll watch it here in the next couple days. But you heard some of the stuff, good, bad, or indifferent. Jack Perry. It sucks that WWE and AEW are at the point where neither one can benefit off a feud between CM Punk and Jack Perry. And for the fact that New Japan was actually able to turn a crowd in some respects against CM Punk that night in his own hometown is amazing. I family ties to Chicago myself. So anytime you see that flag, and you see somebody disrespect it, you want to go and fight them. Now I've lived in Texas for almost 40 years of my life, but my mother is from Chicago. A lot of my family is from Chicago. And we kind of, you stand up for Chicago, whether you're North Side or South Side or you live in the suburbs. You're still a Chicagoan. And Jack kind of going again, crapping on Chicago by stepping on the flag. If people weren't getting, Jack used a heel move that Shawn Michaels has used before, that other people who, let's say with the Canadian flag, desecrate something that is held sacred to many. I can see where it pisses people off. I get it. But ultimately, it tends to make that person must see. Now, the rumors are that Jack Perry eventually is going to turn to and Kazuchika Okada. And I welcome that because now the Bucks are taking in the pillars. And Okada's not a pillar. But I think what they're starting to do is they're going to take Jack Perry in. And then they're going to tie it. They're never going to tie in Darby. Unless Darby turns heel and really kind of puts on a corporate persona. They're never going to turn Darby. Could I see Britt Baker a part of the Elite? Sure. I mean, her boyfriend, husband, whatever they are, is friends with the Bucks. So right there, you can kind of see the potential for, some kind of collaboration with a female member of the Elite. I still wasn't a fan of the episode a while back, but after watching Collision and watching Battle of the Belts, people forget that AEW is more than just AEW. It's ROH, it's Collision, it's Rampage. I think they should schedule Rampage. I've said that before, and just make it Dynamite and Collision. As well as if you're going to schedule Rampage, why not put it on Friday night, an hour or two of ROH? Get it off the paywall. Take it, the paywall. Yes, I get you want people to watch Honor Club and subscribe to Honor Club, but put some of it on TV outside of just the here and there Battle of the Belts championship matches, like the match that Athena had. I believe it was with Anna Jay. Uh, you know, I've taken a couple knocks to the noggin, so trying to remember things prior. Sometimes a little hard. Let's see here. Going back to New Japan. Matt Riddle versus Zack Sabre. Now, if anybody gets to watch the Zack Sabre match, it's technical mastery at its finest. I wish Zach was in WWE. He would be the next Bret Hart. Point blank. He would make, chain wrestling an art form. And he can fly. He can do everything you need in a light heavyweight, junior heavyweight, whatever you want to call him. Now, this TV title match didn't end the right way. Yes, Zack Sabre was the one that should have gone over and did go over, but the disrespect, and you wonder why a certain somebody no longer has employment at WWE. And I used to love his matches. I used to love being able to sit there and go, oh, okay, I'm going to be entertained because this guy gets it. And yet, I don't know. I think Matt Riddle isn't getting it. He wants to be back in WWE so bad. He realizes his mistakes, but then you go and no sell the end of the match, which was Zack Sabre's moment. You literally just walk out of the ring after the finish. Then you go BS with the fans. How's that helping you? How is that helping you get over to the people in New Japan? Because I'm going to tell you this. The Japanese, if you thought fans in America were something, Japanese, they don't play games when it comes to their fandom of professional wrestling. They make the American internet wrestling community look like a bunch of whiny keyboard warrior bitches. Excuse my language, but they do. They appreciate a good match, and they will tell you when you have sullen the bed, for use of my, I guess, $1 trillion vocabulary. I don't know. But they will tell you that when something's good, it's good or great. When it's bad, dead silent. And then to finish off the New Japan portion of this portion of the segment, Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley, whether and here's something else people forget. GCW is a company. So Moxley is the only man, active wrestler, to have ever won the WWE Championship, the New Japan Pro Wrestling Championship, All Elite Wrestling Championship, and GCW. I wouldn't say JCW is a major promotion, but they're not a minor promotion either. Bloodsport is a perfect reason. Like I said, GCW caters to a broad audience of wrestling fans, whether you're casual, hardcore, like a good MMA fight, or no ropes on the ring. They cater to everybody, which is nice. And they have a relationship with WWE. The post redacted era of WWE mainly, with Triple H, with Stephanie. Stephanie and Brett Lauderdale are good friends. And I believe, ergo, Triple H is good friends with Brett Lauderdale. Otherwise, Shayna Baszler and Charlie Dempsey would have never been allowed to go compete in Bloodsport. And Jon Moxley was severely undervalued as a talent in WWE under the redacted era. Uh, yes. Let's go back to WrestleMania 32. Good reason. And it was brought up today by Bully Ray and Dave LaGreca on Busted Open Radio. A nod to the guys there on Sirius XM and Busted Open, and their amazing analysis of things. That Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose or Jon Moxley could have been a much broader, better booked match than what we got. You know, granted, everybody loves Brock throwing German suplexes, but when you gave Dean Ambrose literally no offense much of that match, and then it essentially turned into a no holds barred match with the introduction of weapons, and still Ambrose ended up looking like, a $2 steak on a $3 plate. I'm kind of happy that Dean went to AEW, because now with the Blackpool Combat Club, with Claudio Cesaro, I'm not going to butcher the man's name. He has my respect, so I'm not going to do that to him. With a Wheeler Yuta, with a Bryan Danielson, I mean, you have three of the most elite talent, and Wheeler Yuta is, carving a niche all his own. But Dean Ambrose deserves every bit of the accolades he is getting, especially now not a member of WWE. And hopefully one day we'll, revisit with WWE the Shield era. Hopefully get a who was the best of the Shield match at a WrestleMania or whatever. That will put bunch of butts in seats, to paraphrase the great Tony Schiavone. And God bless Tony Schiavone. Man should be a multi-company Hall of Famer in regards to his silver tongue. Hopefully that one day will happen. But beyond that, Mox winning the heavyweight title in New Japan, being able to bring it on to AEW television, it's going to be a nice touch. Defend it on AEW television, be a nice touch. Whether it's within AEW or New Japan decides to throw over and start building booking with AEW to future matches featuring Moxley in the title. TNA. I think TNA, we're getting ready to see more of what we were hearing in regards to the collaborations with WWE and TNA. I cannot wait. And it's about damn time Zachary Wentz was able to come home to NXT to have a little short run with Wesley and the other rascals. Trey Miguel would thrive in NXT just as he is in TNA. To have a cruiserweight faction make a run for the tag titles, the championship, the North American title would be amazing. If not on a main roster run, if they were to cross over. Same thing with Jordan Grace. Jordan Grace is the measuring stick, honestly, of the current TNA women's roster, the knockout roster. And I'm not trying to exclude anybody, because it's well known that TNA, well before the women's revolution, showed out with their women's roster. Gail Kim, Victoria, or Tara, excuse me. The Beautiful People, Angelina Love, Velvet Sky. I'm going to kick myself in the butt for this one. And I apologize. I think she knows who she is if she ever hears this. I will do you the respect of talking you up here in the near future. And that's just some of the great talent that other companies have been able to have because of TNA. let's see here. Who else? Josh Alexander. I was able to catch up on some pre-Revolution uh, tapings of TNA. And Josh Alexander, that man, whether he remains with TNA long term or he goes elsewhere, he is damn good. He is the Canadian Kurt Angle. And yes, I said that, the Canadian Kurt Angle. The 5-star match on. Does he need a 5-star match? No. But can he put a 5-star match on? He's sure damn right he can. Him and Moose. And Moose has turned himself into quite of a bit of a valuable hand in the company. With his run and his faction with Eddie Edwards, and it escapes me besides Eddie Edwards' wife. Who else is a member of that faction? But they're great. You get to see Nick Nemeth, Dolph Ziggler, and Mustafa Ali. I almost said Mustafa. You know, no Lion King reminders today. Mustafa Ali to be able to thrive in their own outside of WWE. If there was somebody a la Kofi Kingston or Daniel Bryan that should have had at least a cup of coffee with either the major men's world championships in WWE, it was Mustafa Ali. You know, Mustafa Ali, a la Bray Wyatt, was an open thinker, was very creative. You know, had this shtick of some kind of level of, and I'm not going to say MAGA because I don't care for politics, but you know, they kind of create this gathering or this cult of Mustafa Ali in his promos. God, I really wish they would have let him run with the ball. Why do I say this? Because dude can talk, dude can wrestle, dude can make his opponent look like $1 million, even if in the end Mustafa Ali takes the win. Yeah. Mustafa Ali is the future, whether like people like to talk about it or not. He can beat a Moose. He can beat a Josh Alexander. I think you should give him a title run at the top of TNA if you don't eventually bring him back to WWE, or he decides to branch out besides New Japan into other companies. You know, that's the beauty of the forbidden door, or the stupid instrument, as Triple H likes to call it. That, you know, instead of calling it the forbidden door, just know that we're open for business, as Triple H said. Good and bad at AEW. Nothing really bad about AEW outside of the debacle the other day. Like I said with Tony Khan, yes, I love that he's a fan of the business and that his heart is about thriving the business of professional wrestling. But to worry about WWE, you shouldn't worry about WWE. Don't. Make your product a standalone. How do you do that? Take your top 3, 4 men's and women's feuds. You know, build around that. Build the story around that. Yes, have the random matches to establish new talent. But get away from the tropes, the WWE tropes. WWE can do what they do because they've been around 70 years. Through the Capital Wrestling Corporation, through the NWA. Yes, the WWF and WWF were once upon a time NWA territories. Look it up. And one of the things that WWE they can take shots. It is the internet wrestling community, us fans, that need to be able to look past it and go, oh, okay. The comment at the Hall of Fame to Billy Gunn. Instead of letting that go, people got offended by it. I'm not going to speculate who, but that would have been my way of creatively taking fire and going, okay, I can take this tag team. I can take this men's feud. I can take this women's feud. Uh, highlight it and build it to a crescendo, to a dynasty, to a world's end, and I know I'm speaking out of order on pay-per-views. And it's nice that AEW is now almost fully booked in regards to yearly pay-per-views. I think they're up to 8 now. It's going to be nice to see 12, but hell, I think WWE is going to do 16 this year between Clash at the Castle, the two Saudis, already Elimination Chamber, and Bash in Berlin. And then the PLEs for NXT alone, or the special events on 2-week special events on USA. I was speaking about this the other day in regards to what NXT will do, and I'll go back to that here in a second. With what they're testing with the Battleground pay-per-view to come up. But back to AEW real quick. Like I said earlier in regards to Jack Perry, we're going to see a brand new Elite. What does that speak for a Kenny Omega or Hangman Page? Well, Hangman Page doesn't need the Elite. He is just on his own as a heel doing good business. I was pleasantly surprised that you put a mic in Thunder Rosa's hand, or at least give her mic time to build a match. Thunder Rosa was the last AEW Women's Champion before Toni Storm eventually became interim, and then once it was determined that it was going to take some more time for Thunder Rosa to come back, then the full-on AEW Women's Champion. And you see what Toni Storm has done with the AEW's Women's Championship. Oh my God. I am a fan of Timeless Toni Storm. I was a fan of Toni Storm when she was in NXT, when she was NXT UK champion, when she was in WWE before she got a whole rash of crappy booking from the redacted end. And I'm happy to see her thrive. But, these feuds with Deonna Purrazzo and Thunder Rosa, if we're not seeing, and this may be just another notch in Toni's I beat you belt in regards to her run, but I expect to see a much harder hitting, stiffer match between Thunder Rosa and Toni Storm. And with the promo that Thunder cut at Collision, it's going to be great. Bucks FTR part, I think 3 now, maybe 4, 5. Doesn't matter. They're going to deliver. But right now, the only reason why I watched the match is FTR. I think the Bucks are a tad bit douchey. Too douchey to watch. But I understand the heel character and I get it. They're leaning on their real life roles, even if they have no power, to, stand out and be the biggest tag team heels on the entire roster. The reason, make them the team that you want to beat the crap out of every Wednesday and Friday and Saturday and on pay-per-views on Sunday. I get it. Let's see here. Who else? I like that they push new talent. They bring in talent that's never been seen. That was the beauty of Dark in Dark Elevation and having the Center Stage and the Nightmare Factory shows. I believe there was a show at Nightmare Factory. Don't quote me on that one. But to have those shows so that you can allow your other talent that you don't normally see or doesn't get regularly used on a Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, or pay-per-view to get some ring time, to get some eyes on them. And YouTube was a great entity to expose that. Like I said, if they get away from worrying about WWE and take the WWE shine off these talents that are underused and just let them run. I'm looking at you, Keith Lee. I wish that man was booked better than what he's getting right now. But we'll see. Like I said, I am fully looking towards the Dynasty pay-per-view, the Will Ospreay versus Danielson match, first time stateside match, I believe. Of the two, should be a classic. Dave Meltzer's probably somewhere like, oh, I'm going to give this 10 stars. And it may end up a 10-star match. Who knows? Those two cats are good. They will probably all have us going, yep, match of the year right there. Kazuchika Okada, the Continental Crown Championship against Pac. God, that's another talent I wish could go back to WWE, but I understand how he was done dirty by the booking of Redacted. I don't see Pac going over on this one, but I think the Rainmaker and the Bastard will challenge Ospreay and Danielson to share the potential of co-matches of the night. Strickland and Swerve Strickland. Sorry, Swerve. And Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe in his final boss era. Yes, I'm going to, to be in company with Dwayne The Rock Johnson and Mako Satomura and using the gimmick or the gimmick title, the final boss. This is truly Joe's final boss era. If he gets a title run outside of this AEW title run, if he ever goes back to another company and gets those kind of runs, who knows? This may be it. But Samoa Joe, ever since he took the title off of MJF, has continued the worth of a champion like MJF did and Mox did and others before him and Kenny Omega even. And that's going to be a part of the alibis is something with Kenny Omega. That you continue to prosper your product, not worry about what this company, their 3 brands, or this company and their YouTube pay-per-view access run is doing. Build around you. Don't act like WWE doesn't exist. And people will go, yeah, missing this stuff on Dynamite, on Collision, on these pay-per-views. That's how you get eyes back. That's how you get 1 million people back. Is not making your product about the other product or taking shots at the other product. I don't know how many people have said that. And I'll just add to the list of people who have said it. But yes, AEW, I believe in AEW. I like watching it from time to time. For a while when Vince was insulting all of us fans. Uh-oh. I said that name. Redacted was insulting all of us fans. I watched more AEW than I did WWE. But ultimately, I want to see companies thrive. I want to see the business do well, regardless of the brand, the company that is putting on the product, because that just means more people are employed, more people have a chance to create something good, and more people have an ability to come out of these ranks like WWE has with their NIL program leading into NXT. That's something else that I wish AEW, and you have Jacksonville, you have money there, Tony. You have Shad's money to go and build your own PC and thrive your own talent. And, go, okay, I'm building the next generation of AEW talent that isn't from the independents or New Japan or TNA. That is where I think legs to the legacies of these companies grow, is your performance centers. Not just the schools that some do come from and then get into the business of AEW, WWE, TNA from, but the fact that you have these talents. Perfect example, Obafemi, track and field star at the University of Alabama. And he's been on the roster for less than 6 months. Already has a North American title run. Should probably honestly be the next NXT champion. If Tony were able to make it to where he could get teachers, you got Serena Deeb. Serena Deeb could whip you up an amazing women's division. Can't speak ill of Serena Deeb. I never will. I mean, I love her matches. People are like, well, she's two-dimensional. No. People are forgetting that she can put on one of the most beautiful technical performances that people will sit there and harken back to her male contemporaries and legends of the business. That's how good she is. That's where I think AEW needs to evolve into, is not just thriving and relying, but building their own legacy and sitting there going, and this is no slap to the WWE and TNA talent that they have brought in, but those talent be able to give to an established crop of new talent. Let's see here. We're going to preview Raw a little bit. So I've got the rundown real quick right here. We're going to get a promo from Cody, which we're going to get asked what we want to talk about. And I'm pretty sure he's going to talk about AJ Styles. Hell, we might even get a Cody match on Raw tonight. Who knows? I would love to be able to see Cody have a match on TV with the title. Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan. It's about damn time we tied a bow to probably the longest running storyline between those two women, injury or not, and finally see who's going to come over on top. I kind of see Ripley remaining, but to be the one that beat Rhea in regards to Liv would just maximize Liv from the moments that she had with a Ronda Rousey a few years back. I'm going to avoid that one till last. Sheamus returning. I got a feeling that it's going to be either Sheamus and Sammy, Sheamus and Chad Gable. We may even get a run back of Sheamus and Gunther, which we already know that match slapped. We got shown that in Wales at Clash of the Castle about a year or so ago. But we're going to see what the Celtic Warrior does tonight. Former King of the Ring, former Money in the Bank, an Intercontinental title shy of being the ultimate Grand Slam champion in professional wrestling in regards to WWE. Jey Uso versus Finn Balor. Oh, talk about match of the night on Raw. And the match that may follow it. Jay and Finn, if you just let them go, let them do their thing. Don't make it WWE vanilla. Let it be Neapolitan. Give it a little different flavor than you normally do. I would think a Jey Uso and a Finn Balor match should be. Watch out. The other match that I think may actually steal the show tonight is Andrade versus Dominic Mysterio. There is no way that, and you love to hate on Dom, but there is no way that you can sit there right now with a straight face and say that Dom, along with Judgment Day, isn't doing some of their best work since they became a stable and marched away from the initial Edge era of Judgment Day. I mean, shit, excuse my language again. Damian Priest is world champion, point blank. Rhea Ripley, world champion. Finn Balor. Finn Balor's resume, I don't need to speak on it because you already know it. His accolades alone would fill this space back here with championships and then some. JD McDonough or Jordan Devlin, a prodigy of said Irish badass Finn Balor, Virgil Devitt, Prince Devitt. Dom and Andrade, and people already know what Andrade brings to the table. Andrade is an amazing wrestler in his own right. So I could see that having a screwy finish leading up to a potential payoff later in the month or next month there at Backlash. But it should be a damn good show in regards to that being a potential show stealer tonight on Monday Night Raw. Katana Chance and Kaden Carter versus Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. Nothing against Kaden Carter, Lacey Lane, and Katana Chance, Katie Catanzaro. This is a match that Chelsea Green and Piper Niven should win. Why? You don't want to turn Chelsea Green and Piper Niven into that women's tag team that you use to put over other talent. They should be in the discussion as the top 3 or 4 women tag teams in their division, besides the Kabuki Warriors, besides the Jade and Bianca, besides enter this talent and this talent here. Ivy Nile and Maxine Dupree. As we're seeing over the weeks, Ivy Nile and Maxine Dupree, it's been just fine. Maxine's getting better. And for the people that say that Maxine sucks, you try to go put on a match, literally going from valet to wrestler, and tell me how you do. Because none of us untalented or not trained talking heads can sit there and she's going to make mistakes. Nia Jax did. And now Nia Jax is putting on some of the best work she did in the company. You know, took Nia Jax to go away and outside the company work with her friends Natalia Neidhart and Ashley Flair, or Charlotte for some of you, and better her game in the dungeon there in Florida with TJ and Natty. Ivy now needs just a bit of polish. But Ivy now stood her own against Rhea Ripley recently, which, you know, goes to show that NXT works when they get to the main roster if you book them right. Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell, I don't know. I can kind of see Candice splitting and as the picture kind of was harkening back of their War Games match in NXT, that I could actually see Rhea and Candice LeRae and maybe one other talent create their own women's faction, maybe a women's faction inside of Judgment Day. But then it kind of goes, okay, well, if Candice is a part of Judgment Day, how does this affect Johnny and Tommaso Ciampa? Johnny being Johnny Gargano, her husband. We'll see. Who knows? It is a twisted web we weave sometimes on WWE television. But as we're seeing with the long-term booking, a lot of good callbacks. And then the match that I expect is probably going to main event tonight, and who knows if it's going to result in a heel turn for Chad or what it's going to do long term, i.e., the addition of Gunther and Sheamus into the story. But Sami Zayn, who should have had beyond just an NXT championship run, had multiple world title runs at least. You know, honestly, I could have even said he belonged in the Seth Rollins Drew McIntyre match. And if somebody wants to debate that, I'm all open to being I'm all open to listening. Not afraid to listen to what I need to in regards to the pros and cons of that. But Sami Zayn and Chad Gable are going to blow it out of the water tonight, regardless of how the finish goes, regardless of how what turns may potentially come, fracture, breakup of the Alpha Academy, whatever it is being planned, we're going to see. What else? Beyond that, let's go to the alibis. Okay, let's see here. Kenny Omega. I'm going to start Kenny Omega first, and then I'm going to go to a young lady that I think gets a lot of disrespect. Kenny Omega, with some of the things that he's come out recently saying, and his platitudes towards his rival company contemporaries. We'll just use rival company right now. The things he has said about Seth Rollins, The Rock, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns lately in regards to putting them over as equals on the plateau that is Kenny Omega, because Kenny Omega is not a slouch, and people need to put respect on his name too, just like they put on it on other companies and the tribalism. The fact that he was very open without violating probably what happened that night, and saying that him and CM Punk have a mutual respect relationship, regardless of what had happened at All Out there in Chicago a couple years back, is good. Now, people tend to forget Kenny Omega did once work in Florida Championship Wrestling, I believe, or Deep South Wrestling under Dusty. So yes, Omega was a Dusty kid at one point in time. But I hope that Kenny gets well so that we can get him back on TV and still show out. Diverticulitis or whatever he is dealing with is a really cruddy disease. Not gonna lie. But yeah, let me tell you, honestly, I would love to see a Kenny Omega versus Randy Orton, Kenny Omega versus this person, Kenny Omega versus that person. I mean, WWE would make money hand over fist. Not going to embellish any more than that. But yeah, Kenny Omega versus anybody in WWE, like Kenny Omega does with the talent in AEW, makes money. Now, there is one other piece of business, and I kind of sat and watched this weekend or over the last week, people crapping on a certain young lady who, yeah, she has her fingers in a couple different projects. She wears a couple different hats, whether it's on Busted Open as a weekend talking head, or fills in for Dave LaGreca during the week, or has her own podcast and speaks about the business, or talks to Sean Ross Sapp and shares their opinions about the business. I mean, young lady is at WrestleMania post show press conferences and gets to talk. She's on the red carpets of different companies and their pre-show stuff to put over talent. I will say, hell, I'm a member of the internet wrestling community myself. So my opinions are just one of many. But to go on Denise Salcedo and think that she's vanilla, that she's just another woman with a wrestling opinion, we should celebrate that of opinions about how the business should run. Hers is as valuable as mine, as is the next person that talks about it. Whether you're a fan, whether you're a wrestler, a manager, a producer, an executive, we all have a part to see this business thrive and succeed. You know, we harken back to the end of WCW and ECW. Go back to what Paul Heyman said. That little piece of ECW is still within the companies that are around today. With WWE, it may not be as prevalent unless it is a payoff match. And yes, it includes weapons, which was famous for ECW. Or, you know, the mistakes that companies made. I love the finger poke of doom. WCW, and I grew up watching WCW, had great matches with corny characters, but they still were great matches. Terrence Taylor and uh, Michael Wall Street, Mike Rotunda, uh, or not Robert Gibson. It was Richard Morton. When you had the York Corporation, that was a perfect example of a faction that didn't get pushed, but had talented individuals a part of that. Terry Taylor, Mike Rotunda, Ricky Morton in their own right. The Dangerous Alliance. Could you have pushed the Dangerous Alliance over to WWE or eventually into ECW? Sure. Was Arn Anderson leaving? No. Larry Zbyszko was on his last bit of being able to run as a wrestler himself. Bobby Eaton eventually was going to leave WCW one way or another. God rest his soul. Rick Rude. Rick Rude doesn't need introduction or me to read a resume. Does have benefited over other companies, sure. But point blank, we as the professional wrestling internet community on Twitter, Facebook, whatever groups you're a part of, we have a responsibility to back each other up and to talk each other up. Whether it is an AEW talking head, a fan, a WWE talking head and fan. You know, professional wrestling only thrives because there are people willing to talk about the storytellers. They're trying to talk about their business in the ring and not on a mic, but the bumps and slaps and chops and punches that those talent take in the ring. And yes, Denise Salcedo gives you a perspective as to how the business goes. So quit shitting And yes, I'm going to say that. Quit shitting on the young lady because, yes, are we going to have biased talking heads within the community? Sure. But that's what makes the business better is we're able to talk with some, if not an unrestricted ability to get the point across of what the business should be from our perspective. You know, they don't have to listen to us. They don't have to allow us behind the curtain. They don't have to let us speak our piece. But ultimately, and I kid you not when I say this, there wasn't a Denise Salcedo or Dave LaGreca, Sam Roberts, Peter Rosenberg, Sean Ross Sapp, Dave Meltzer. Even though I don't like Dave Meltzer because I don't think he grades the worthy matches that deserve his 5-star scale in WWE to what he grades AEW and New Japan. But that's besides the point. You know, he's been in this forever, and that's his shtick. So good on him. The Eric Bischoffs, the Mark Maddens, and the list can go on. The Conrad Thompsons of the world. We all who sit behind a mic with headphones on, watching the product, we all have an opportunity to better the product by giving them creative critiques that we see as fans. And then translate that to, okay, well, they're watching. How can we enhance? That's the perspective these people are giving. If you're mad because she gets paid to have an opinion, go have an opinion yourself. Start a podcast. You know, I'm not getting paid for this right now. I would love to get paid for it. I'd love to put over businesses if I had an opportunity to include veteran businesses. So if anybody's listening to this and, wants to get their business over with a free or near free advertisement, let me know. But stop talking and shitting on people. This is why the world is sometimes a crappy place like it is right now. We should be beholding everybody and lifting everybody up. Yeah, we're not going to agree. That's the beauty of civilized discourse and point counterpoint in the world. Is it allows us to view and see different opinions instead of just going, oh, you know what? Mine is right. Because guess what? Even mine's wrong at times. With that, I'm going to close this edition of From the Cheap Seats. This has been Chris Branson. I hope everybody tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday enjoy what's coming between Raw, NXT, and AEW Dynamite. Let me know how you feel when you watch this. Leave a comment. Give a share. Other than that, I wish you awesome and amazing and hopefully a much sunnier here in Texas Monday. With that being said, everybody have a great day.